Hey, what's going on, you wonderful weirdos? Delta Dog still proves to be my favorite independent comic book. I'm going to tell you why in two issues that I just recently picked up. Action Comics finally gave us an origin story, but does anybody really care at this point? We don't really know the character that well. And also, X-Men's getting a little weird, and we're going to talk about that with X-Men and Marauders coming up. That and a whole lot more coming. Well, not really. I'm lying to you because there wasn't that many comic books. But we got a lot of comic books that we want to talk about anyway. Right after that beautiful intro. Hey, you wonderful weirdos. I'm hoping that you are having a great new year right up off the bat. I'm Pocan Joe, and as always, you're pretty cool for coming by. Let's talk about some comic books this week. This is my haul for the week. I only picked up one independent this week, but I wanted to start it off right here in the video, and that's Delta Dogs. I finally picked up issues 7 and 8 for it, and I'm going to be honest, this is the only independence that I picked up this week, and they're still maintaining to be my favorite. This is good comic book reading. We have a lot of great young artists that are out there doing great things. Um, Definitely check it out. The link will be down below. You can catch them online. You can get the hard copies. I'm a floppy guy. This is my thing. We find out a little bit more about our superhero powers in this and how they actually work. But most importantly, we figure out more of the family dynamic of this. So we have a cousin who's kind of the father figure of the family, and he's kind of been the kind of, don't do this, don't do that kind of guy in this family situation when kids were trying to make bad decisions. So now, of course, he's held prisoners, as I've referenced on this show before, and the kids got to go save him from the gang. And we're finding out that they're still learning their powers, but the great thing about learning about it is the only way you truly learn something is, yeah, get some baseline, but the only way you're really going to learn anything is by putting it in motion. I really like the fact that their superpowers have never really been explained to us. That has been awesome. As you read, you kind of understand it more. Like we're starting to understand somebody can control mass, or this other guy can kind of make energy solid, and the fact that somebody can duplicate themselves can actually make them faster, which is kind of accurate. I kind of like the way they did it in this comic book. I don't know why this thing isn't out there with everybody else. Read it. Just take a look at it. Spend a couple of bucks on it. It's for a local artist, and he's a good guy. You can actually check my haul video from the Vanguard Brewery and Distillery, where I actually bought these last issues. Most of my hauls that I get locally, usually they're on my walkthroughs as well. I'm really impressed with this comic book. I wish they were paying me money to say this, but I'm happy they're not, because it makes it that much more genuine. They're just great young men that wrote a good comic book. Definitely check it out. It's actually kind of interesting. With that said, let's roll into our mainstream comic books. So not a huge haul, right? We got a lot of stuff, but not overbearing. So Action Comics number 1018, we finally get an origin story, but the truth is, do we care? The reason why I don't know if we care or not is because they convoluted everything with a bunch of minutia. I'm impressed with the fact that I just came up with the word minutia. We get a, yeah, that red mist cloud lady? Yeah, we get her origin story in this. We also find out that the fire chief, the redheaded fire chief, she wants to be mayor, and she asks Clark Kent to ask Superman if she can get an endorsement, or recommended that maybe she can get an endorsement in some roundabout way, which we don't care about because Superman already revealed himself to the world as Clark Kent. Like that already happened, but this is kind of an in and out type story where it gets kind of weird. In the meantime, the other story that's going on in it is Superman is fighting Apex Luthor at the same time. I don't know how I feel about this. Like it's a lot of story crammed into 20 some odd pages, and it just seems like you're getting a little bit of very little bit of a total story. Like it's I don't know. I just don't feel like I'm getting as much because I got three stories to follow. Uh, to their credit, though, we find out that Leviathan is actually on the side of Doom in this. You'll remember that Leviathan kind of played himself off as this no more secrets, trying to be a hero, trying to relate to Superman to some degree, and Superman kind of shut him down. Well, apparently he turned over to this whole uh, Doom side. I don't know how that works with his preachiness in the last issues. Like, it's a little conflicting. Like, nothing really fits at this point. You got three different sides. You got Leviathan, who doesn't like secrets, doesn't like bad guys, and he's just crushing everything. And then you got Doom, who's obviously bad, on the side of bad. Literally the goddess of bad is giving him powers. And then you got Superman and the Hall of Justice that are like, we're good guys. And then you're like, okay, Leviathan's really bad now. And it's like, how did, like, that's a lot. Like, it's a lot. Let's keep this streamlined to some degree. Guys, help me out. I don't know. Maybe I'm not that bright, and I'll go with that. That's fine. We have a new arc happening right here in Detective Comics. This is number 1018 as well. That's so weird. They're both 1018. I don't know why I just now noticed that. Anyway, what do we got going on here? We have a cool story that deals with paganism. And I'm going to butcher this. Well, I'm trying not to butcher it. But the whole tradition of Christmas is based off this thing called Jahalabot. Jahalabot. Double check that. I may be wrong. So that's a pagan holiday where they would decorate trees. But the bad part of the holiday is that your Icelandic type Vikings. We're just gonna throw the word Viking in there because it's in the comic book. Because there's a Viking in it. Um, Apparently sacrifices happened during this as well. And, Christians kind of did their thing where they kind of dressed it all up and made it a little different. But in this one, we have a Viking guy who is a pagan, and he's like a traditionally pagan guy. Like, he's hacking people apart with the Viking tomahawk things. I guess tomahawks is being sensitive. Let's say small Viking hatchets, which is a tomahawk. Anyway, I love the way this opened up because it immediately grabbed your attention with the chop, chop, chop of some dude's skull and body. Um, I like the way the detective work of Batman in this. I love the way that worked out. I like the ritualistic of it. I thought all this was really great. I think we're on a great arch right now. I even like the fact that the Viking has a problem with Bruce Wayne. Like that's a problem. Like he jumps at him at the end of the comic book and he's like jumping at him with his little axes or tomahawks, whatever you want to call them, and wants to end his life. And that's where they kind of left us on this one. I really kind of like this because now we're playing off of a pagan thing that happened way back in the day that has been misrepresented to today. I like that. I don't think we should forget that kind of stuff. It's ritualistic for a reason. I really like the way that's been played. And I don't know where this is going to go. Like, seriously, I don't know if this is a guy from the past. I don't know if it's some nut job that just lives today. But in the beginning of the comic book, he obviously has some sort of following because there's people in the background in monk robes. So let's see where this goes. I'm really enjoying it. I'm talking way too long on just this one comic book. Let me move on to the next one. Um, the next one is, yeah, did you get that variant? That's a beautiful variant. I ended up with both because I don't pay attention sometimes. This is Justice League Dark number 18. Um, we're breaking out into the war. The other side guy, or the upside down man, as he's generally referred to, strikes a deal with Wonder Woman in the ultimate consciousness, I think is what they're calling it, which is just some hideaway place for magic people. Don't get hung up on it. It doesn't really mean anything. It's just some place outside of the norm. While this is going on, fake Wonder Woman and her entire gang are attacking the basement of the Justice League. The basement. They bring to life a dragon that's slightly, maybe sort of related to other dragons with the same last name of Fang, but they're not going to say it because it's DC versus Marvel, right? So that kind of happened in this. I really like Solomon Grundy's kind of punching at it, and he's tearing his fist up, or he's punching at a door, and he's tearing his fist up and his body apart, and the kid's like, this ain't working. Like, seriously. So they bring this dragon back to life to kind of blow down the doors. But what we have in here is our first appearance of a possible new Dr. Fate, or somebody wielding Naboo's helmet that turns him into Dr. Fate in this. This was pretty cool. I also like this deal that the Upside Down Man made with Wonder Woman. This whole comic book has been about balance, right? Of good, evil, magic, chaos, that order, the whole 9 yards. This has been a constant theme in this. So what Wonder Woman actually proposes to the Upside Down Man is, your problem is that you have no balance in your life. You're something other than what you should be. To add some balance to you, I think I can help with that, but I need some help getting back. So there's the deal, right? I need to get back. You help me. I'm going to help you out, getting this balance so you can actually exist. But the ultimate price of this is, if Wonder Woman fails, he gets to eat the world, which is weird. And he proves this by eating somebody. Yeah, it got dark real quick and just dark. So it's fitting to the title. I really like where this is going. I don't think it's as powerful as the first arc, The Witching Hour. I don't think it's as powerful as that, but I think this is a satisfying second arc to it. So I'm really excited about, well, I'm not excited about it, but I'm going to continue reading it. I think that will be fun. So moving into Marvel. So you can't talk about one of these without talking about the other. All this is X-Men number, what do we got here? Well, we got Marauders number 5, and we got X-Men number 4. How one jumped ahead of the other when that was the premiere, I don't know. Basically the same things going on in both of these. I don't know how I feel about these yet, so I'm going to keep reading them to kind of give them justification. All these are nothing more than political struggles, political power playing at this point. So Xavier, Apocalypse, and Magneto go to this very fancy, it's not a world leaders dinner, but like the movers and shakers of the world are there. It's like a Bilderberger type thing. So these cats are there. They're all talking, and like Magneto's pretty much running the show. Like, he's like, look, this is why you guys are jacked up, and this is why we're going to do better. And instead of fighting you, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you over by your economic status, and I'm going to run a drug, their little pill that makes you last forever. I'm pretty much just going to run that through your countries, and I'm going to take everything from you. Eventually, I'll end up on your banks. Like, he's taking a more economic stance and everything. And Xavier tells us that he never really lost his dream of controlling anything. Even while they're there talking about this, well, there's a plan to kind of take them out. And I don't know how I feel about the American guy doing it, but it is what it is. There's a team there. And Gagora's back. Now, I'm a huge fan of Gagora from the Silver Age. I think it's a great character, right? And he's gone through a lot of ramification, but the personality's always been there, being the warrior type. And of course, Cyclops is there. Well, they split up and they defeat the teams relatively easy. But most of this is a political power structure of economics and trade, right? Now, with that said, we move into Marauders, which is pretty much the same thing. This is more the boots on the ground. This is more the political strategizing of how to do it. So, I made the argument when the Powers of X and House of X came up, these are how you build societies, right? And then from that, we got all these other stories. Now, Fallen Angels and all that, I've already dropped all those. The only thing I'm reading right now is Marauders and XMen. And I'll be honest with you, that's enough to, well, if you're in college right now and you need to write a paper on how trade works, you can probably cheat a little bit. I'll use these as cliff notes. But comment down below before you do. I'll give you my email address to make sure you're on the right point, because you can't tell them, well, I'll just create a thunderstorm to do it, because, yeah, you'll get an F on that real quick. All right. So, Punisher, Soviet, number 3. This continues the backstory of our Russian soldier who was kind of doing the same thing as Punisher. But this is like horrific. Like, I've heard some soldier stories in my time, and I don't know if this was an actual thing or not. Now, one thing you need to know is and before you get all upset and mad, I think we need to talk about this. Um, Russia invaded Afghanistan way before we did, and at one point, certain portions of our government felt that it was a good idea to set up pockets of Afghanistan resistance. So they did, and they gave them things like Stinger missiles, weapons, ammunition. Like, they did this kind of stuff because it was the Cold War. It was a weird time. Good, bad, or indifferent, it was all about beating the Russians at that point. They kind of touched on that in here, but the guy didn't seem like our hero, if you will, our new partner or Punisher. It didn't seem like he was upset about it. It's like he kind of understood the politics of that kind of stuff. And that's justifiably so, right? Because it was a weird time, right? Reagan, it was just a weird time. Let's just leave it at that. But we did get the fact that they were still them, and their barbarism of what they did to a lot of people, not even the Americans would have justified it. One thing they did is they actually took our hero, or our sidekick, whatever you want to call him, and they put a knife, put his hands together, put a knife right there through the skull and pinned him up. The problem with this is when he woke up, he realized that they skinned his friends, like skinned them, like you would a deer or anything else, and left them there. Now, of course, this causes a lot of pain. One, it's been cut from you, plus anything you touch at that point, your nerve endings are just absolutely ridiculous, and this is what the guy had to stare at all night long. I don't know about you, but when I read this, I was like, oh my God, that even in some of the worst things I've seen in my life, I couldn't even imagine that. And I was like, oh, that was rough. And then it kind of soothed me a little bit to know that the Punisher didn't flinch from this. He was like, yeah, that stuff happens. That was kind of crazy. So we're starting to get more and more why our Punisher sidekick guy is having a little bit of a problem with this Russian mafia boss, because he sees him in the paper, totally dressed up. We're starting to get closer to that story. So a lot of this is kind of like, if you wanted to go chintzy with this is nothing more than a flashback story like the last issue. But oh my God, is this a good back issue? I like the flashback. This is good stuff. I really enjoyed this. I really think if you're a Punisher fan, even though the Punisher doesn't play a big role in it, I think you'd still like it, because it's right there with the Punisher whole thing. Next we got Doctor Doom. As more politics. I don't know what's going on with Marvel lately. So the interesting thing about this, and I went with the Gandalf the Wizard one. So I had to take some notes on this, and I had to do a little research because in the beginning it gets very philosophical, and it gets weird. So they talk about the law of dependent arising right there in the beginning. The law of dependent arising is based off of a Buddhist, not religious side of it, but the philosophical side of it. And it deals with the secrets of bondage and release. Now, it sounds, first off, that sounds super sexual, like something you see on brasiers or something, but it's not, right? Uh, the way to, I got to make this as compact as I can, so forgive me for my simplicity on this. But picture yourself as a brief moment as God, like you're God right now, and God has to make a choice, right? One or the option, whatever those decisions are, they can expand if you believe in multiverse or whatever. So we'll say that that exists too, but the whole fact that you, being God, get to make a decision. So you want to decide if something is this way or that way. It doesn't matter. Pick whatever you want. Pick a situation in your life of however you thought it should have worked, or pick a future situation you know is going to come up. Like go to work, not go to work tomorrow. Okay? So if you go to work tomorrow, um, what are the ramifications of that decision? So you recognize you'll go, you'll get paid for that day, yada 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 yada, right? And then there's a bunch of other decisions throughout that, like how long you're gonna stay, you're gonna are you gonna lazy dog it through work, whatever your decisions are. That's the bondage part. Let's say you pick the other part and you pick the release part. Like you don't go to work, you can screw off all day long with the ramifications of that. Either way, it doesn't matter because you are God and you've made a choice. You are your own personal God. This can get, and I'm being very superficial in this, so understand that. But as I was reading through this, it would seem to be it's a narrated theme throughout the whole thing, where one entity talks about it being a narration or a mathematical probability or whatever the case may be. Um, the whole dependence or dependent of arising has nothing to do with mathematics, right? It's if you're God, how do you create? How do you destroy? In other words, what's the bondage and what's the release of these things as you live and make your choices? So it's not overall what's going on in the book, but they try to force that in there. And then they throw in mathematics because that becomes important too, right? You got to have the cosmic, which is mathematics, versus the faith, which is this whole Buddhism at this point, or the philosophy of, if you will. Um, this gets this gets hard, but the cool comic book stuff that we get from it is we get Taskmaster in it who gets defeated because magic. We get Mordok in it, who comes to find out is the one that believes in mathematical probability. He's trying to talk to Doom's kind of bastard son, who's kind of a drunk and everything else, and that's where the narration kind of comes into effect. It gets very convoluted. Like, it was too much story to cram into this. I felt like they needed to separate these issues. Like, if you wanted to talk about the philosophical side of it, you want to do all that, and then you want to have all the action stuff, fine. That probably would work. I'll probably talk garbage about the other issue, but this issue would have made it make sense. Instead, they tried to put all this into one, and it just seemed like it was very hard to follow. You're like, why is this narration about being and not being and probability and everything else going on? And I'm seeing Doctor Doom fight Taskmaster. Like, that distracts, right? I'll give you an example. Pretend you're watching a play of Shakespeare, right? And in the top right corner of the stage, there's a huge TV, and it has Fast and Furious. That's what this comic book felt like to me. Like it was like this kind of distracting. What am I paying attention to here? But regardless, I liked it. It was kind of weird. I don't mind being distracted like that. That was fun. Next was Star Wars #1. I got this, I wanted to go with a funny variant. I could have gone with an expensive variant. I really like this because it's a line from a movie, That Boy's Our Last Hope. No, there's another. And then we got the little Bucky. I don't know if you've. Yeah. Yeah, we got the Bucky Rabbit, and Yoda's like, it's not you. I felt that way when I watched the Star Wars movie. Somebody said it was a Star Wars movie, and I was like, yeah, no. We'll talk more about that at the end of this show. Um, so this takes place right after the Empire Strikes Back, right into the Return of the Jedi. It's that kind of space right there. Apparently, Luke Skywalker just jumped into Millennium Falcon, and they're hot deep into another mission. So what? Like, how much stuff have we retconning here? So what? And the entire thing was a space battle. If you're a true Star Wars fan, you know the best parts of the movie aren't in space flying around shooting each other. The best parts are like dealing with Ewoks or maybe flying into the Death Star and shooting things. I'll give you that. But flying around in space trying to convince Lando Calrissian that he really wasn't a traitor. He's just there. He's got a quirky personality. So bad. Yeah, so bad. That's pretty much what this was. There's some lady that is, she's on Star Destroyers, and she figured out how to create a barrier. Then a Millennial Falcon showed up, and that happened. It, no. Stop explaining old stories. They're fine the way they are. Just leave them alone already. Like, I don't think anybody that's watched Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi need a deep story on how them two stories are connected. Leave them alone. You've done screwed everything else up. Maybe I won't explain. Towards at the end of this. I'm still a little bitter. Alright, let's move on. Alright, Avengers and Defenders. Yep, there it is. #1. It's not really a #1, is it? No, it's not. Alright, so we start the story off in 1941 where the Captain America turns into the Hulk because golems are attacking. If you don't know what a golem is, that's like a Jewish thing. Basically, it's a clay soldier, and you put some initials in his head, and he like comes to life, and does your bidding. And this one's some German guy. Those guys that hate the Jews figured out how to do this magic. They don't tell us why. But then we find out that everybody forgot that this happened, and we're thrown into a battle where stuff happened. Seriously, this is so bad. Why does this exist? Like, come to find out, it's Diablo. Do you remember Diablo? Yeah, most people don't. He's in this, and there's a thing, a MacGuffin that he needs to turn people. It's God so bad. Those are my notes on this one. Like, this is hard to follow. Like, just the most random stuff happens. Who's the writer? Should I look at the writer in this? No, we're not going to look at the writer. We're going to let this one slide. This is cheap writing. Alright, so moving on. Hawkeye came out with a new comic book, #1. So, millions of dollars for your greatest of grandchildren. 10 generations worth. But you want to know the funny thing? This was actually good. Oh my God. Hawkeye, Freefall. This is a good. Go get this. Look, I'm not a Hawkeye fan. Alright, fine. Go get it. Go get this. Look, you got witty dialogue. You don't have any special superpowers that can explain everything at the last second. You have straight up street level people. You got Hawkeye. You got Bucky, right? Winter Soldier. You got him. And then you got Falcon in this, and they're trying to figure everything out. You get some snarky commentary. No, I'll be honest. I don't know how most people, when they deal in situations like, let's say you're in a meeting or just dealing with a group of people, and you're trying to figure out how to respond. If you have the sarcastic thing happen in your head, but the thing that comes out of your mouth has to be somewhat legit, that's this entire comic book. Like, you can relate to this comic book. I know I do. This is a good comic book. It's funny, it's witty, it's got some action going on it. We got some things we don't quite understand. We got a ridiculous superhero or villain that shouldn't even be a villain, but for some reason he is. And we get a superhero that actually goes to the court precincts or the court proceedings of his villains. And why does he do that? Why doesn't anybody else do that? Like, you'd think that'd be important. They tell you why in here. This is good. Check this out. At least issue 1. Like, you only get issue 1 from me. We'll see about issue 2. But I know I'm picking up issue 2. So definitely, this is funny. It's good. It's action-packed. We kind of play off of Rowan a little bit in this, but who is Rowan in this one, right? There's been 3 other Rowans. Well, 4, you count Hawkeye. But regardless, it's just fun. And really, that's what some of these comic books should be every now and then. And this one is. Alright, so last but not least, I'm not a huge Thor reader. I don't particularly like the Shakespearean dialogue that happens in it, and then it's being passed off to us like it's something Nordic and old. It's actually not. But I picked this up because a lot of people have been talking about Thor lately, so I figured why not? Now, first off, if I'm going to do it, right, I'm going to go big. So I picked up the one per store variant. So what happens in this? So Thor's Thor, right? Thor's God, right? Like legit, like God, right? And then he's king and he's bored. He's like super bored. You see that, right? He's bored. No, he's bored. And he's bored being king. And his brother's kind of still a pain in the ass. And he's a king too, so he's right there with his brother. He did this one cool thing where he threw his hammer through all 10 realms to crush a monster, and Tony Stark took a pen or a Sharpie and wrote, "Yeah, enjoy your retirement," as it came back to him. That was pretty funny. Like, that's legit. But what do we get in this? We get Galactus that completely falls down on Thor's kingdom. Like, Galactus. We know how big Galactus is, right? He, like, falls down. He's all, looks like he's got herpes all over his face and stuff. It was hilarious. Well, apparently there's a bigger threat out there, this death frost or winter death thing. It exists. Where Galactus eats planets, this thing eats reality. So this is obviously a threat if Galactus fears it. And he does fear it. And there's some respect to where Galactus kind of kneels to Thor, but then he like shoots him with his hand laser thing, and everybody's freaking out. Well, that wasn't to hurt him, it was to make him yet another, Herald of Galactus. So I'm trying to figure out is if God status versus this Herald thing. But anyway, he comes decked out like an anime character in this entire thing, and he teams up with the other Heralds. We've been playing a lot off these Heralds of Galactus lately. So I'm kind of wondering where this is going to go. I think they're related, maybe. I don't know how these crossover. There's so many of them. Like, I don't know. But we have something in Avengers where the Heralds had to get together there. Cosmic Ghost Rider, there's something going on there, right? But anyway, Thor does meet all the Heralds in one particular room. It is made a Herald as well. Even Cosmic Ghost Rider was there. So that was interesting. So I am on board with the Thor thing. And I'll read this for a little bit until it gets stupid. But right now, I like it. Minus the Shakespearean dialogue for Vikings. Because Those two didn't get along. But look, I'm not going to be I'm going to be nitpicky because that's what I do. It's my YouTube channel. So there's that. So what else? That's all my comic books. So first off, I want to hope that all of you are being safe and having a happy new year. Cheers to you. Uh, and I just want you to know that we have a lot of exciting things coming up. I'm going to launch a villains competition. We did this a couple of years back. It seemed to be very popular. I wanted to give it some time and relaunch as we get new subscribers because I got some great prizes. So that's going to be launching very shortly. Also, over at Blat It Stash It, we have our stashies coming up this Saturday. Yeah, our fourth annual Stashies. We have a myriad of categories, just like any other award show, both good and both bad. You definitely want to swing by for that. That's this Saturday. I'll leave the link down below. Also, we have our regular comic book show, Blat It or Stash It, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on YouTube, where we talk about the good and bad of the week. We also have a live chat where you can come in and give your personal views of what you thought were good and what was bad. Please, all are welcomed. Definitely check that out. Also, on January the 11th, we have an auction. We're going to have a little auction. Why are we doing an auction, you may ask? Well, apparently we're going down to Emerald City Comic Con over there in Washington, in the Seattle area. Emerald City Comic Con. Apparently, we're all going to go check that out, or at least our West Coast friends. I'm going to fly out there coming from the East Coast. Maybe I'll get climatized. Maybe I won't. Maybe people will get mad that I don't drink Starbucks coffee. If they do, oh well. It's going to be weird. Right? And we have a lot of things coming up. Richmond Galaxy Con, Esoteric Con. We have a very busy year coming up. So I invite you all to this stuff. Come on out, meet us. If you are in the area, definitely. Because that's why we do this. Is one, so we can talk about stuff, two, so people can disagree with it, and three, so we can come together as community and still get along. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Have a happy new year. I'm gonna go upstairs and ring the new year in right by snoring because that's what I do. Sad as it is. All right, guys. Love you all. Take it easy. Bye.